Hi, welcome to the Asian American International Film Festival 43rd edition. We're really lucky to have here the director and producer of Aswang, Alx and Armi. Um, Alx and Armi, can you guys just introduce yourselves and then tell us a little bit about the film?
Yes, so I'm Alx Arumpac. I'm the director of Aswang. Aswang is a product of 3 years of reviewing war against drugs in the Philippines. And it premiered last year at IDA and has been on several online festivals since then.
Hi, I'm Armi Cacanindin. I'm the producer of Aswang. Like the past few years, working with Alex for this documentary has been somehow a roller coaster. At first, we didn't know how to finish the film, how to fund it, and then like after a few years of like filming and applying for several grants, we're now here on an online festival. It's, we're really lucky that despite the pandemic, the film is continuously getting seen, not just international, but also here in the Philippines.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a film that me and my team loved immediately because it's so kind of visceral. And oftentimes, especially if you're in the US and you're receiving news about other countries, it can be a little cold. Could you, Alx or Army, could you talk about a little bit about how exactly you found these specific stories to tell?
Hmm. Um, so I knew that I wanted to do the film from the very first time that the images started coming out. The photographs were very brutal. I think we've all seen them, and I personally knew that I had to do something. Um, with choosing the people in the film, uh, yeah, I played it by ear. It was actually going out every night, following literally this trail of bodies. This is where I met the people who would eventually be, I would eventually follow, um, and the protagonists in this film.
I guess how long in total did you guys shoot? I guess including looking for your characters all the way to when you guys finished
Mm.
shooting.
I think it was 2 years of filming, more or less,
Wow.
and then maybe on and off a year of editing, but it was just like in time periods because we worked with foreign editors. And in that period, we could also go back filming whenever we needed something, which is the beauty of documentaries.
Yeah. And the amount of access that you guys had, I thought was incredible. How did you get that access, and how did you build the trust so that the characters would allow you guys to shoot kind of these really
Mm.
intense and intimate moments?
Yeah, it was a lot of going back and forth. It was just really a lot of time spent being around these people. I work as a TV producer in Manila, and if you work for TV, it always helps to be able to. I don't want to say gain their trust immediately, but to get people to warm up to you immediately. But the war against drugs is a very tricky topic. It's very dangerous. A lot of people are scared. There's a lot of fear going around, and so that really entailed a lot of time spent on the streets and be with these people.
Yeah, I guess Army as a producer, how was it kind of making sure that you guys could get these really incredible moments, but making sure that everybody is safe, that everybody is taken care of, and that you could actually be able to show this footage after you've gotten it.
Yeah.
I think it also helped that we used Aswang as a title because going through the process of making the film, people did really thought it's about the war on drugs. Even with like writing letters here for several government agencies. We just say that, okay, this is Aswang and it's about the lives of several people intertwined. And that's about it. I guess that was somehow kind of very useful. Uh, at the same time, it's really like Alex's hard work going um, to shoot all these nights, sometimes not knowing if there's a story or not, but just patiently filming until there's the I mean the stories are getting kind of making sense. It's also important how she was able to pick the characters, because it was really not just about the story, but how also how like the protagonists relate to her. I think we started with like five major protagonists, and then slowly, choosing which ones to continuously follow.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the characters that we do end up kind of focusing on are so impactful. And, I think very rarely does a documentary make me cry, just because sometimes there's that separation. But both Elise and I, who did documentary programming this year, were like, "Did you cry?" And so it was really it was one of the kind of big reasons why we really wanted to program this film, because it is hard. I think the war on drugs, both in the U.S. and in the Philippines, can be sometimes difficult to connect with, and the film does such a good job of connecting the emotional aspect of it, and kind of just the really scary parts of what's happening. You had talked about the title being Aswang. How early did you guys choose the title, and what was the thought process behind choosing the title of Aswang?
The title came on day one.
Wow.
So when I first saw the images, I thought of the Aswang immediately because I was doing research about it, and I knew that historically it's not just really, it's not just scary stories for us. It was literally used by certain parties to scare people into, not to force dissent to end. So there were rebels in the countryside, and so what they would just do is really, take a body, kill this person, dump it in the road, for people to find out. And this emptied the countryside. It's When I first saw the images, I really thought that it was about fear mongering. It was, sending a message, because it was just so. It was such a spectacle. How is it necessary to wrap heads and then draw on the tape these caricatures? It was sending a message, and this is what I first recognized. And then I thought of how the aswang was used in our history. Um, I didn't really know if we could sustain it until the very end, because it's very typical for documentaries to change directions, and I was advised many times not to go this direction as well. But yeah, and of course we all know that things develop, and some people actually say that if you end with the idea that you started with, then maybe things didn't really change for you so much. In my case, I learned so many things, but this idea of the aswang, it was like a guide for me, visually, and also how to approach the film. So that's how it started for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a striking title, and it's such a striking, yeah, structure. I think I hadn't thought about that, and you had brought up spectacle, and how did you balance kind of showing the spectacle that is being created right on the streets, and being sensitive to the fact that these are, real human lives that are being lost, and real lives being affected by all of this kind of violence?
Yeah, it's tricky because no matter how much I think, I try to make sure that I am still in this respectful space that the idea for me was always that to respect this body or this person at the point of his departure, because there's no such respect attributed to him. It's such a brutal death. um, I kept it in mind at all times. But if you're a filmmaker, you're there. It's I think it tends to happen that you would also really just think about work. At the same time, I really think that the camera for me acted as a filter,
Mm.
because if the camera were not there, I'm not really sure how much I could take it, because I was filming so many. So for me, having this tool, having this lens, and then just thinking about the technical aspects of the work, um, thinking about light and framing, and not really so much thinking about the entire situation, helped me. It was a different case when previewing the material.
Mm.
Because then you're really confronting it, and then you're really looking at it. It was a difficult process, and I have to say that I'm not always 100% probably the perfect
Oh, oh no.
Oh, I thought it was my internet.
Yeah, no. Oh,
I'm here.
Okay,
yeah,
there.
Alex, you're back. If you could actually just say the last little bit of what you just said, I think it froze for a second.
Yeah. um Basically, I tried to think about this, keep this in mind all the time. I tried to keep in this respectful space. I don't think I did it all the time, um, but I think it comes with making such films anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. There's like a, I guess, a cruelty to everything, whether it is the action that is being done, and then us as observers and kind of revisiting it all. And you had mentioned that you guys spent about a year and a half in the edit. Could you talk a little bit about what that process was like, and I guess what you ended up cutting out as you were building this film?
Mm. It was a lot of learning. It was a huge learning process for me. It's my first feature, and as Army had said earlier, we had so many protagonists. I was following so many until the end. I had my heart set on a couple, but the reason actually why we also did this multiple protagonists was because we knew that at any point, any one of these people could just say they didn't want to be part of the film anymore. Um, and anyone should be allowed to do that, because it's scary, to put yourself out there. And this is why we followed many toward until the very end. Uh, in the end, the editor, because we had two editors, so in the first editor, we just decided who comes out among the material to feel most I wouldn't want to say honest, but it's more like a real exchange, really. um yeah, it's an honest exchange. It doesn't feel transactional. It doesn't feel like they're just being forced to do something. It really feels like they're happy to be it's my communication with them feels real. And that was actually the process of how we edited the film.
Yeah, and Army, could you talk a little bit about how from as a producer standpoint, what you thought needed to stay in the film, and then what maybe perhaps was a little too sensitive and would have been a little tricky to leave into the film?
It so we had two foreign editors because of like funding obligations. We have to like edit in France, and then afterwards, I think like months later, we edited in Berlin with another editor. So somehow it's like foreign eyes that is putting together the scenes with Alex. And at some point, I think another Filipino pair of eyes was needed to back up some feelings
Mm.
on certain scenes. I clearly remember one scene that didn't make in the final cut just because like it was dark and like they didn't I think that there's that line that this man who lost his brother said that I voted for him, but what he did to my brother was not right. And that as a Filipino really resonated in me. So while we were somehow finalizing the cut, it's like this is very important because like there's 16 million Filipinos who voted for the president. So it may help them reflect with just that shot. Um, so there. But also it's my first time to produce a documentary. So I was also learning together with Alex from her, from our other collaborators.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so interesting that you were saying like you wanted another pair of Filipino eyes on the cut because I think so often documentaries that talk about hardship or troubles are usually from an outsider perspective coming in. I guess where else did you have I guess where else did like, you know, the white gaze end up kind of either you had to push back on it or you had to consider it because yeah, there's an honesty to the film that I find very difficult to imagine somebody who isn't from the Philippines to give it, you know, the true showcase that it deserves.
We were lucky actually. We were mostly lucky to work with partners that really respected and respected this vision, something that we had. Of course, there was a little pushback once in a while. Yes, Aswang. It's not little, but yes, there was it was expected. Also, for instance, the Aswang as a title, it was good, you know, because having these thoughts forces you to really strengthen your resolve and therefore strengthen your ideas to be able to answer. So the Aswang, why do you want to put the Aswang? How can we call it the Aswang if it's not in the film formally? Which was a good, very real point. Putting President Duterte's, he's very famous for his speeches, right? Comparing himself to Hitler, etc. So the European partners some felt that it would be very good for context. Just basically show that this crazy man is But for me, it felt personal in a sense that I really didn't want to put him there. In the same way that I didn't want to give space to killers, to people that were doing these violent acts. It was personal. I think it's something that happens after seeing all that. But it was good to have questions about these things because, like I said, it forced me to strengthen my resolve about my decisions, about my directorial decisions. But yes, ultimately, we were lucky of the people that we worked with because they were very respectful, if not actually most, maybe 90% on board with everything. And towards the end, it was a good experience that way. But maybe it's because they are who they are.
Right. Yeah, it's always amazing to be able to work with good collaborators and to have somebody, I guess, checking the choices that we make. Have you guys stayed in contact with any of the subjects? I know that in particular, like I felt very connected to the young boy. I think you guys, there's a moment in the film, right, where you can't locate him, and it becomes almost this little mini mystery, mini thriller within the film, and that really it affected me more than I thought it would. So would love to know if you're still in contact, or how they are now, once the film is out.
Yeah, we are in contact with all of them. It was nice because in the Philippines as well, when we released it back in July, we had some problems. We wanted to release it for free, so it was mostly for free. But then we said, okay, it might be easier with Vimeo on demand if people just pay. It was like a very low amount, but then we give everything to the protagonists in the film. And so a lot of people did that. And even though it was a pandemic, that's what made it hard. As it is, it's really hard to go to these communities. Some of them are on Facebook, some of them I can easily talk to, so it's great. Jean Marie is not very easy for me, so I had to devise a system to communicate with this family. Right now, I'm always in contact with their neighbor, landlady. The system of support for them is also not very easy because, of course, if you just give cash, you don't really know where it's going to be used in this kind of situation. So we are still trying to figure out ways to support, particularly Jean Marie in the long run, because the others are, adults, and it's very easy to help them. But this boy, in this kind of situation, it's not very. It's not. Yeah, like I said, it's still a problem that we are still trying to invent solutions.
Actually, on the onset
But
of
yes, we're in contact. He's got much fatter.
on the onset of the pandemic, it was actually Brother June, the missionary, who we asked to somehow help us locate, send some help to Jean Marie and his family.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't get out, and Brother Jun was doing his some sort of like mobile kitchen, so he went and visited Jean Marie.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so interesting, the communities within these communities that are trying to hold each other together as everything is happening. Did you find it difficult to I guess translate this kind of really intricate community, right, for a broader audience, whether in the Philippines or abroad?
In the film?
Yeah, right, because there's the missionaries, right? There's the kind of the church involved. There's the police, right? There's the kind of the more traditional groups, and then we see, right, the I wouldn't say upper class, but we see people that are kind of a little more removed, right, from the immediate situation.
Yeah.
I guess, how was it trying to kind of show all of these layers, and then and to make it still feel, this is the Philippines as a whole?
That's also a problem. Like, some people would no, I wouldn't say a problem, but some people would desire all this kind of information. I think early on we just decided that we really wanted to stick with certain things that are essential, and this is why we didn't really bother with with names, with text. That could have, for some, that would have been necessary. We wanted to stick because otherwise I think it would just also be, I don't know. It would be a lot to take in. The Philippines is already so multicultural. There are many things there, including the multiple protagonists. So it was an editing decision, which I thought, which I really liked, and I'm glad that they supported me on this. In that we stick to the story. The main narrative that could be followed from beginning to end was the story of a little boy looking for his mother. And everything else is just woven around it. And I think this is something that is universal. A lot of the themes mentioned here, a lot of the things spoken of in the film, it's life and death and survival. It's just very universal for me. And everything else was just things we could Google, for instance, which I always do about film afterwards, if I need more information. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that was a strong choice, because I felt the same way, where the way that I describe the film to people is that it is truly like an emotional adventure, an emotional exploration of what is happening in the Philippines. And if you want to figure out the other stuff, the internet is there, and there are other documentarians, right, that do the more I guess technical, like this is happening, then this happened, and this happened. But again, I think when we talk about, the US and the Philippines are really interesting when it comes to the war on drugs, because the government purposefully tries to remove the human element out of it, right? Both in the Philippines and in the US. And so I think films like Aswang help bridge that gap that people try to create, because they don't want people to actually do anything about it, or they don't want people to know about what's happening. So I do really, really appreciate Aswang, and I hope that lots of people do watch this film and really understand the emotional toll that all of this is taking on so many people. I guess the next question is what are you guys working on next? I think Aswang is such an amazing debut, and would love to make sure that we are supportive on whatever you're working on next.
Armi is producing another film right now.
Oh.
I'm still taking a break.
That's fine. It's good to take breaks.
Okay, I was on mute. The director who recommended or who introduced me to Alx, we've been developing his project for the past 5 years. So hopefully that would be the next release for, in my. It's about time.
Took longer than Aswang.
Yeah. Is it a documentary as well?
It's a fiction film set in the aftermath of the strongest typhoon that hit the Philippines.
Oh, amazing. I guess
so it needs a lot of like script development and funding.
Right. I guess Alx.
Yeah, relatively, Aswang took. It's faster than other documentaries.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels of its time, and there's a certain urgency, I think, of needing to see this film. So I can understand maybe the fast track to it. Alx, you're taking a break, which is well deserved, especially talking about the emotional toll on you as a filmmaker as well, having to view all of this and to process all of this. Is there anything that you hope to do, maybe a little idea of something that you want to work on in the future?
Yes, one thing I learned while making this film was just that my work will always really be centered in my homeland, in the Philippines. Right before that, I studied abroad. I was doing short films, short documentaries as well, and it's a difficult film. It was a very difficult film to make, but I also felt like this is really where I need to be doing my work. And it's always, I think, something that would side with, telling story, showing or opening these images of oppression towards people that really need their stories told. And I think I'm happy to devote a longer time of my life telling these stories.
Yeah. I mean, I think the sensitivity that both of you bring to what is such a difficult topic, I think, is so important, and I hope more people get to see the film and understand how difficult it is to both shoot in the Philippines, but in particular shoot this specific story in the Philippines. I think we see glimpses of the difficulty, but at the same time, the focus that you guys had on the characters and the main narrative, I think, is just amazing and so strong. Is there anything that you would like to say to the festival audience as we wrap up?
Yeah, just that one thing that Armi and I didn't realize was the challenge of releasing it. In the Philippines, it was so received very well. In fact, almost overwhelming for us. We did not expect this kind of reception. And we actually had a lot of Filipinos overseas, including the U.S., asking us when is it going to be shown. And we're happy that the festival took it. I just hope that while making this film, my idea was always that because President Duterte is very popular overseas, he just released like a 90% approval rating or something. And the feeling that I always thought while making this film was that if people were in my position, if people were seeing what I was seeing at this very moment, and then maybe people would start changing their minds about this because he's also very popular with overseas Filipinos. And so what I am hoping is that people tap into something in their hearts. It may sound cheesy, but this film was made from that place, from a place that is honest and real, and we hope that people see it that way as well.
Yeah. I don't know if Armi got frozen. She's still here. Oh, there you go. You're back.
Oh, there you are.
You're back.
So I guess other than like Filipinos abroad would start like discussions or even just inner reflection. It was also overwhelming when we released the film here, how much support the audience would want to extend, especially to Jo Marie. So in our website there are like details how to help. Not just Jo Marie, but also we put there a few organizations that that's supporting the orphans or the widows of the victims. And there are also readings there to put context also to the film or to know more about the situation here.
Great. So yeah,
So, yeah,
everybody
you can visit.
should watch the film and then go to the website and read up
Yes.
and provide any support that they can provide. Alx and Armi, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the film. I think it is such an important film, and it's so emotional. I keep going back to that word. It's emotional and visceral, and I think it's a perfect example of what documentary can do to reveal a really complicated, difficult situation. So thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having us in the festival.
For screening the film and also for having this talk. It would really help like put context also and understand the film.
Yeah, no, I love chatting with filmmakers, and in particular for this film, which has so many layers to it, right? So thank you so much, and thank everybody for watching.